of course the internet is full of freeware that actually is not copyrighted to be downloaded for free. So we have to be quite vigilant with that. And we do give the students education on it, and that generally happens at our middle school assemblies of a Monday morning if a problem occurs. Sharing of games has been another issue. One person might get it and then pop it onto a USB stick and then that gets passed around. So that's something we've had to pull up children on in the past. It's okay if they've bought the game and it's on their MacBook and used at the right time. But of course playing games in class is not on. At times there'll be free time given if all work is complete and that kind of thing, but that will be the only time that any of our students will be playing games in class. So if you're hearing that there's a lot of that going on, just make sure you look into it a little bit before, perhaps getting really frustrated or annoyed, or, look into it and ask about it, because it might have just been a free time activity or something like that has occurred. But from time to time we do catch, and I'm talking about 1 to 2% of students who have been caught playing a game when they shouldn't have been in class. It's a very small percentage. We have had parents talk to us about overusing the MacBook at home. Can I just remind you that with the lease agreement, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, you're paying for the right to be able to have that MacBook. Right? It's not your child unless they're specifically given you the money to pay for that. So you have every right to grab that MacBook and keep it in your room if you're finding there's an issue with it. That's your prerogative. And please, use it. If there is an issue, please, because they should be using it well at home. We educate them in that way. If they're not using it to your satisfaction and liking, then make sure you put parameters around it. And we'll talk a little bit more about parental controls and things like that available in the MacBooks later. The content is monitored at school. We have a program called NetBox Blue that generally is our filtering system. It does a number of other things as well. But in that program, we're able to monitor what's happening at school. But obviously we can't monitor students while they're at home. And obviously that's an issue, because if you've got your own internet access, which I'd like to think most families do have now, and we do encourage that as well, obviously parameters need to be set around what you're allowing your child to be able to do at home. I think, and this has been really good, it's really good practice just to have the computer in a public area. We're talking about, approaching, or if not approaching, adolescent children. So they're going to want to explore, they're curious, and they're going to want to have a look at different things. So you've got to be aware of that. If you think that, I'll go to your room, take your MacBook and sit there for a few hours and you don't hear from them for a few hours, it's best not to assume that everything that's going on is perfectly wholesome, if I can put it that way. So just be aware, if you put it in a public area, it lessens the risk enormously. Okay? And I think that's very good practice, especially if you're finding there's an issue. Okay? We've got things like headphones. Students asking to be able to use headphones at different times. I only spoke about this in assembly this week. And that's that students will ask, I'll put the headphones in, can I listen to music while I'm doing this piece of work? Now research suggests that unless it is tranquil music, the focus and concentration goes completely out of the window when it comes to thinking. On a treadmill, great. There's not much thinking that needs to be done there, but certainly doing a project or an assignment, it affects their concentration quite significantly. Okay? Particularly boys, but certainly girls as well. And when you talk about tranquil music and things like that, although it gives you nice feelings, as far as thinking goes and concentration goes, even that music doesn't really have much of a positive impact. It just has a steady impact with no music whatsoever. So keep that in mind. We need to think about that in classrooms as well. That if there's an activity that they're doing, for instance, I've set math homework this week where my students need to listen to how particular algebraic equations are solved, they get a little video. Obviously they're going to use their headphones for that. or a game where they actually need the sound to be able to play that maths game or whatever it is. But, of course, if they say to me, oh, while we're doing these 20 questions, it's okay we listen to music. No. And I'd advise that. Okay, it's from home as well. Okay? Now, you might know yourself. You might work better in some ways with your music playing in the background. But just be aware that if they're not listening to the right kind of music, it's probably breaking the concentration while we're helping them. Now, I'd just like to go on to the cost and lease agreement. As a lot of you would know, the cost has gone to $350 this year. Each of the MacBooks costs the school around $500, just over actually. So it's a shared cost agreement between Apple, ourselves, and the parents of the school. And I know that that is something that is really concerns the parents. And we're really trying to make it worth everybody's while. All we can say is that we know educationally it's absolutely worth its while. As far as cost, however, goes, it's costing the school, as you can imagine, we've got 400 odd MacBooks in our school now. It's costing us a lot of money to be able to run that. A lot of the government funding that we get, gets put into this program. So it's at quite a large cost for us as well. As you know, you could duck down to Harvey Norman and get something for $500 these days. Unfortunately, with all the research that we did, we know that paying MacBooks certainly last the longest battery-wise, certainly the most robust. They have the least moving parts in them, and they're a lot stronger, generally, than any Windows machines that we've seen out there. Some schools are just looking into, and some schools are just beginning to bring your own device, because they want all the benefits of having the digital technology in school, but not have a controlled piece of technology that all students need to have, like we have. There's so many issues with that. We're going to have a look and wait and see, because as you can imagine, some students would have limited devices compared with other kids who would have the newest GPU device. So that brings about that competitiveness in the school and those sorts of issues. Also, things like battery power. Some phones might last, or an iPad, or a Samsung tablet, or something like that might last for an hour or two. We know that these machines can last through the school day if used wisely, and slept and not turned on, not used in particular ways. We know how we can get a day's worth of work out of the MacBook, particularly if they're being used to a third, to up to a half. Some days the battery power is gone by a fourth period because it just happens to be that every teacher is using that day. So we need to be aware of that, and we've done it. If we had to bring your own device, that issue would be monstrous. We don't have the facilities to be able to have cords and cables running all over the classroom. As you can imagine, that would be a shambles, and there's an obvious OHS or WHS issue that we can't have in our classrooms. Every piece of equipment needs to be tagged by an electrician to say the same. So the issues with that, we think the people have found. So currently we have the MacBook Air just coming out. Now these are 3-year lease agreement. I know that our Waratah campus has a 2-year lease agreement. That would significantly increase our cost by about $140 a year. Because we have a 3-year lease agreement, that's why it's $350. Otherwise it would be more in the scope of about $470, $480 a year, which currently we think is beyond what we're willing to go to. So some students do have the older white machines, as you all know. After 3 years, then they'll move to these MacBook Airs. The white machines actually aren't produced anymore. And that leads me to that issue of the weight of the machine. These are significantly lighter. I can't wait till everyone's got one of these in their backpack. But there is the option, if you're finding that to be a difficult aspect, to leave the MacBook at school with the charger, and we can charge it overnight here. They can take it home only when they need it, perhaps for homework or projects or things like that. That is an option that is open to you if you wish to take that due to the weight of the machine. And it is a consideration we have to make when we're deciding on going with MacBooks in the first place. As going into senior school, there's a review being done on the Digital Education Revolution funding. You might know that Year 9 to Year 12, digital education was given a huge subsidy, and it was about $150 for a machine in senior school. And in other schools, as you might know, they were given a particular laptop a few years ago as well, with the associated issues that I spoke about earlier with some of the Windows machines. It's had to go up for the senior school because that digital education revolution money was taken away by the government, but it looks like they're revisiting that. So we've got fingers and toes crossed about that one, because obviously we value it so highly that we want that to continue, and we certainly want our parents to be satisfied with that. The last word I'll have on that is that we obviously want to be competitive. We're a school, of course, but we're also a business. And for us to be competitive and offer what we're offering here, we need to be able to match what something like Newcastle Grammar or St Francis Xavier, all those sorts of schools are being able to offer as well. We want as many of our students to stay up in the Bay and the peninsular areas as we can. We don't want them going to Newcastle. And we sincerely hope, and we know we've seen success with our numbers, that what we're doing here, being at the cutting edge, is going to help make that decision easier for parents to stay at St Philip's. Okay? I thought that was an interesting point that I might make, because that's something that we also need to consider. Okay? Where am I up to here? I think I'm just about done. I'm going to hand over to Pete now, and he's going to talk about a few things and then have a showcase of some of the kinds of work that we've been witnessing over the last 6 months or so.
Hello. I just want to run through a few forms with you. Those of you who have got MacBooks for the first time might be playing with printers and other things in at home and going, it won't let us print, it won't let us add these things. So there's a few forms for you to know about. These are all on the portal as well as in the middle school storeroom as well. So this first one here is for an administrative password. You can ask for administrative password so you at home can add things. Of course, you need to be careful with this. If you do get sent the administrator's password, we ask that you keep it and not give it to your child. And then you also make sure that you know what they're putting on their MacBook, and it's something that you've bought on legal software and those kind of things. The next thing is okay, this is the software one. So if you've got a printer at home that needs to have software installed for that printer to work and those kind of things, this is the form that you can fill out. And your child can get one from the middle school office, just bring it back to their core teacher, and they'll go to the IT department.
It's also available on the portal under Think Smart.
The next one, parental controls. In the past on the white machines, there's lots of things that as a parent you can set up to monitor and restrict what your children can do at home with their machines. Do you want to talk about the new ones?
Yeah, just with the new MacBook Airs, currently, and I only found this out yesterday actually, currently it's not offering the opportunity to be able to set those up at the moment. So the new Mountain Lion, got it, software that is present on the newer machines, it doesn't offer the kinds of processes that were available on the white machines, the old machines. So that's something that we're looking into, and we hope we can set up as soon as possible. This allows things like sleep time, and your child can't access their machine at between this hour and this hour. You're finding they're taking it to bed and wanting to look up things under the covers. You know, those sorts of things can be put in place as far as parental controls. Also, of course, things like websites that you can block and other things like that. So this sheet will offer different options for you. Unfortunately, we can't set it up that you set your own options because if we're going to set it at school, we need particular ones to put in place. But we will be updating that to the new students as soon as we can.